Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet person of the best hair, and it's time for the Sunday video, the second video of the week, and I don't really have all that much time, so I am taking a suggestion for what to do when you don't have all that much time to make a video and you still want people to watch it. A tier list. Lovely, low effort, but a little too low effort for me, so I'm putting a little bit into this, as you can tell. And there is a reason behind this particular tier list. On the 13th of August, I joined Mahler and the crew on EFAP for a little discussion of Prey for episode 198 of EFAP, Every Frame a Pause. It's over 7 hours digging through that movie, trying to find all we could talk about, and we found a lot. And in preparation for that, I already decided, you know what, I wanna be there, be on my A game. I'm going to watch every single Predator movie ever made. And so, that brings us now to today. I have kind of evolved my opinions, and also as a critic over the years I have evolved, and I've come to appreciate movies in more ways. Now, a lot of the things I had to say about the general quality still kind of hold true, but there are some things to note, and I would like to note them today. So, without further ado, let us get started on this beautiful Predator movies tier list. So I have this lovely tier list system all set up. You're all familiar with it. And we're going to start this off chronologically with the original Predator. Now, the original Predator is an absolute classic, of course. A question here would be, is this a 5-star or a 4-star? Everyone knows it's really good. It does have some kind of cheesy campiness going on in it. Is that enough to say it's really not deserving of a 5-star? Is it down to a 4-star? And I would say no, it is definitely 5-star, not just because the cheesy campiness is just something that it grows on you in certain instances, but there's depth to a lot of it. Predator is an example of one of those movies that gets better every single time you watch it. There are more things to notice, things that they don't really hammer home and just be like, this is, explain it all, this is why this happened this way. It all flows, it all makes sense as you're watching it the first time, but the more times you watch it, the more depth you understand of what's going on, and the more you realize exactly why everything works out so well. The characters interact with each other like actual human beings. It is a wonderful slow burn. You really get to learn the characters, really get to see them evolve over these events and what's going on, and it just never lets up. Never. And I appreciate that. Now, coming right off of the original Predator, Predator 2, this one has a bit of a reputation to it as being kind of crap, and I really don't think that's entirely fair. I think time has bore me out on this a bit. It's a lot cheesier, especially the second act. And as you know, I am a big fan of cheese. I do love me some cheese, and I don't mind it in my Predator movies. And so that works out a lot. I don't think Danny was as good of a frontman as Arnold. Danny was supposed to be big and strong. And Danny is big and strong, but I still feel like the way you see him in his detective garb during the LA heat wave, he doesn't really come off looking like he's big and strong. So there's that. I feel like, Danny's a better actor than Arnold, but it's half of how well they can sell the role in how they act, and also half in how they look. And Danny really does not look the part here. He just seems a bit too exhausted and just out of shape, even though he's in very good shape. In the one scene he has his shirt off, you could tell the man's ripped, but he doesn't appear like it for most of the movie, which is a bit frustrating. Now, Predator 2 did something that a lot of sequels do when they have a mysterious creature that gets everyone talking in the first movie, and that's like the big draw. And it's a mistake in like every single sequel that does this. Except, I believe, for Predator 2. Interestingly enough. And that mistake is over-explaining it way too damn much. You have a mysterious thing, it's spooky, it's got people talking, and then a sequel comes along and decides to just lay out absolutely everything and be like, that's what it was all this time. And 9 times out of 10, it just isn't that creative. It isn't that interesting. And now that it's hammered down, there's no reason to talk about it, and there's not much to talk about. And that's really not so great. But Predator 2 throws a whole bunch of new technology that the Predator has at his disposal, and it kind of establishes that part in the Predator lore that you can have the same creature coming back every movie, like the same kind of creature, but they don't have to have the same arsenal, so it's still not going to be the same situation. It could still surprise you by like, by the way, I am a space alien, I have this tech. I just teleported your ass to Alpha Centauri. Like, you can do that. That'd be a hell of a thing to be facing if he just decided to teleport his ass away. But I feel like it's impressive for doing that alone, for adding so much lore to the Predator. You see the Predator clan, you see the Predator ship, you see so much more. And that doesn't really ruin the Predator. It doesn't ruin it. They also have the Predator calling everyone motherfucker and saying shit happens a lot. There's a lot that Predator 2 does that's campy as hell, that's ridiculous, and I kind of love it for that. But a lot of what it does to the Predator lore actually does kind of elevate things, and I feel like it doesn't get appreciated enough for the fact that it added so much to the lore, and it did not fuck up the Predator in the process, which is more than can be said about a lot of other sequels. So I feel like it's not at the same level as the top. It's not. It's you get 4 stars for Predator 2. I don't think it deserves any lower than that. It's just fantastic. It has its issues, but I still think it's great. And I a lot of the things that bother people about it, I enjoy. So there's that aspect too. Maybe you'd give it lower for yourself, but for me, that's a 4-star Predator. Now, after Predator 2 comes, like, not in terms of, like, if we're going like chronologically in the plot, then of course Prey comes first, or AVP comes first. Things happen in that, but well, either way, in the order the movies came out, AVP is what follows Predator 2, and AVP is it's something. It's something. With AVP, they, the basic idea is they got the Predator, they got the alien, the xenomorph, and they get them to fight. It's a monster movie mashup. And that is really all it is. It is just set up as your kind of monster movie mashup. The way the plot is thrown together, where you have the scientists pulling out the super science out of their ass, and just the big players doing things, just setting everything up, and the humans find themselves caught in the middle. It really comes off like a plot for a classic monster brawl, like a kaiju monster brawl, where you have your science-y humans in the middle, and the big bads battling each other out, and that's affecting things on the human side, and the humans have to do a little something about it, but it's mostly about the monsters going at it. It really comes off like that, and the biggest problem with that, the biggest problem everyone said about the movie when it came out is that it was PG-13. It's based on 2 R-rated horror icons going at it in this big fight, and it's a PG-13 movie. But I feel like that is more to do with, number one, they were trying to market it more. Number 2, the genre this movie is, this monster fight, this monster brawl, it's kind of comes off like a kaiju setup. And the big problem I have with that is that setup absolutely does not fit Predator or Alien. It is not part of the DNA of either series. So to have that as the backbone, the entire structure for this movie, it's really, like, as a monster mashup movie itself, it's kind of like, it does the job. But as an Alien movie or a Predator movie, it just absolutely fails. It does still, the one fight I did enjoy when I watched it, the same fight I talked about, like the WWE SmackDown between the Predator and the Alien, that I still feel like is just really entertaining to watch. But after watching the whole movie again, I feel like if you're a fan of Aliens and a fan of Predator, maybe just look up that scene and ignore the rest of the movie, because there is absolutely nothing else in this movie that really has anything to do with either. I mean, yeah, you could talk about, well, the Predator did this and the Aliens did that. It's just a monster mash that was set up as a monster mash and didn't really care about what monsters were doing the mash. So, it's like, as a basic kind of film, it's sort of a 3, but as Alien and as Predator, it's kind of 2. This is why I need more than a 5-point scale. This is why I need more than a 5-point scale here. Which one should this go on? Which one? Okay, heads is 3-star, tails is 2-star. It's a 2-star movie. Sorry, AVP, that's where you go. Okay, so after AVP comes Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, which that is also another one of those movies where it really doesn't match the genre of either franchise. And it's in a completely different way. AVP was, the biggest complaint that came was, this is a PG-13 movie for 2 R-rated franchises. So, AVP-R, now I'm just getting that. AVP-R was R-rated. It's the R-rated AVP. AVP-R. That one, it decided, okay, people want an R-rated, so let's make an R-rated horror film for Alien vs. Predator. And they did, but it still wasn't an Alien or Predator movie. It was a kind of slasher monster flick set with the young adults in the small town. It was another generic kind of plot that Alien and Predator was thrown into. It, again, failed. The biggest part of what made AVP not work is that it wasn't an Alien or Predator movie. It was a movie with aliens and predators in it. That is, again, the problem in AVPR, except they're like, but we're going for a hard R rating this time. Boy, howdy are we. And they do, but they also absolutely just, like, AVPR has this idea that it's scary to, like, you're gonna really push the envelope in here. We're gonna kill kids. We're gonna kill babies. Like, they just go straight into that, like, right away. But they failed to take into account to make it scary. They just think the idea of it is terrifying enough. And, you know, the idea is disgusting, but that doesn't make it scary. You can't just have a kid get face hugged and then die with a chest burster and be like, well, that was really deep. That's something I'm going to remember for a while. It's the part right away where the father hunter gets a little acid on his arm and he just stands there like he's kind of constipated or just uncomfortable as his arm burns off and falls off. And his son's there like, confused, just like, Dad? And he gets like spooked a little bit by things, but no one seems that freaked out by the fact that this man's arm just fell off, including the man whose arm just fell off. And there's just so much. That's how the horror is in AVPR. The things happening are fucking disgusting, but the way it's shot, the way it's presented, is just not working into trying to make it scary at all. It's just, haha, these guys' heads just got blown off and the blood went everywhere. And it's just, they're framed badly, it's cut badly. It's not exciting, it's not scary, it's just there. And fortunately, one thing I can say about AVPR, that in the years since I first saw it, I have now a much better TV with much better low light and contrast and stuff, and I actually was able to kind of see the movie. So there's that it's not like the first time I watched it where there wasn't even any damn movie to watch. It was just a couple of bad shots of just yeah, and then just an hour of black. But AVPR still just absolutely has the same problem where it fails to be an Alien movie, it fails to be a Predator movie, and the movie that it is, unlike AVP, it's not even like just kind of basically good. It's not. It's kind of like Leprechaun Origins quality in the kind of movie they put together. It's just got enough wrong with it where it's like, you still screwed up. You still screwed up. So I'd say that's about a 2, which might be higher than I rated it before. Maybe because I could actually see it this time. But after Requiem, we come to Predators. Now, Predators, that is one that I remember when it came out, and when I first did my review for Predators, I was very positive on it, and a lot of people were like, "No, this is absolutely crap. What are you doing?" And I can see where they're coming from in many ways, because Predators, like AVP and AVPR, really screwed up being movies in general and weren't Alien or Predator movies. But Predators was the first movie in the Predator franchise, really, that started messing with the Predator themselves. Predator to Predator 2, they added a ton of lore. So much to work on in Predator 2 that they still kind of worked on that in AVP. AVP tried a little bit with history, trying to say, you know what, they like hot, but they'll deal with the cold. Doesn't matter. AVPR completely ignored the temperature stuff, and they've effectively ignored the temperature since. Except maybe in Predators, because it all took place on a very hot planet. Like that was a thing. It wasn't explicitly stated to matter, but it kind of did. It kind of worked. But the thing with Predators was it introduced the super predators. They're like, okay, so we have the Predator, the creature that you've loved for the last couple of decades is really awesome, and it absolutely does not need to be fixed. And we're gonna just reimagine it and make a better version. So yeah, that's kind of like, eh. Of course, the better version were kind of the bad guy Predators, which means that the original Predator became a good guy Predator, but he already became a good guy Predator in the AVP movies, but we don't talk about that. They introduced a lot more aspects. They had like the technological bird, they had the hunting dogs that were a different alien species and all that, and they kind of expanded on the hunting techniques used, which kind of worked, but it also did start to make it a little bit more familiar and like comparable to Earth versus one of the things that I really like in the original Predator is they did work more on making the Predator seem alien. Like when Arnold got the trap set and he's waiting for him to show up, when the Predator does show up, he is climbing a ledge vertically face first, climbing down face first, which a human would never do. And generally, you'd never seen a Predator kind of climb anything that way again, like Spider-Man style. Like, they don't. They can climb. They climb plenty, but they stay upright, more human-like in the later movies. But Predators kind of, when trying to make the Predators bigger, meaner, more whatever, also ended up making them more human. Which, yeah, I could see that's not really the greatest thing. And also, Predators has a bit more of a problem with the characters in the original. They got that camaraderie, and they go through a lot, and it affects them a lot, and you see that through to the end. Predator 2, they have that camaraderie. The events don't really change their behavior too much. No one really goes out of their mind. So, it's not as interesting as the original in that regard, but Predators had a very easy thing to do, where they could pick and choose any kind of people based on the way the movie was set up, where just a whole bunch of people who don't know each other are thrown together into the meat grinder. Everyone has to come together and work towards a solution, and that could very easily work towards getting characters to evolve, show camaraderie, and just kind of learn off each other and change over time. Here's they're introduced in this way, and then they evolve over the course of the actions of the movie, and here they go. But instead, Instead, what you got is you got your main guy who has to be the super cool anti-hero guy who doesn't trust nobody, doesn't want to make friends, doesn't want anything like that, isn't going to be buddy-buddy, and it takes them the entire damn movie to learn to open up and go through their arc, but that means that we don't really get anyone else getting that kind of camaraderie with anyone else. People hate each other, and they keep hating each other as time goes on, and that's just kind of how that goes. The character growth just isn't really there, and there was plenty of opportunity. They really could have done anything. So to have the characterization just kind of, just okay. I'd say that I still enjoyed Predators. That's another thing. The sets. Predators was on a completely alien world, but they didn't really have that many different locations. Like, a jungle looks like a jungle, yes, but they kind of start off in the jungle, then they have another scene in more of a hot spring area, then they go back to jungle, and they look over a ledge and like, okay, we're on an alien planet, this isn't that great. And then, they're back to the jungle, and then they find a camp, and then it's back to jungle, and then they end up at actually a different spot with the derelict ship, and then it's back to jungle, and then it's back to camp, and then it's back to jungle, and it's just, you feel like there were a total of 3 sets. There was the waterfall scene as well, I guess, but it really feels like the majority of the movie takes place in 3 locations, and in those 3 locations, one of those locations takes up 80% of the screen time. So everything just kind of feels very samey. Everything just ends up being like, okay, they are in the jungle. And it's, I don't know, the original Predator didn't really have that issue, even though they were in the jungle the whole dang time. You still had this feeling of progression, like they're getting somewhere. In Predators, they were literally going, and it's like they kept coming back to that camp. So the fact that it was, hey, we're in the jungle, and it's still the same part of it, that did not help. So yeah, there are memorable scenes. I love the sword fight. We finally got the sword fight with a Predator. We got to see one, and they did full samurai style, which was pretty damn cool. There's a lot of things I like about Predators, but it is, at the end of the day, kind of in the middle there. I would not say Predators is as good as Predator 2. Predator 2, just wonderful. Moving on. Well, let's talk about Shane Black's The Predator, because like I said, I watched every Predator movie in preparation for EFAP, and that did include The Predator, and it was painful, just so painful. Like, in terms of how I was saying, the other, like, the AVPs didn't even feel like they were Predator movies. Shane Black's The Predator absolutely had that kind of feeling throughout. But I don't even know what the hell that was supposed to be. It was just, I just felt so much pain. I mean, to be fair, I don't remember all of the movie. I was enjoying my evening. I was having some beers. I was watching some Predator movies. And I had quite a few more to get through The Predator. I mean, you remember The Predator, the Super Predators weren't enough. They had to... This is the part that is really just... The backbone of The Predator is that the new bad guy Predator is the upgrade Predator, which reveals did you know it's not that they're trophy hunters and they want trophies all this time? No, let's retcon the hell out of this and say that single movie you love is actually terrible because those Predators were taking the spinal juices from their prey to be able to upgrade themselves with the DNA of the things that they were obviously stronger than, so they killed in order to make themselves stronger with the stuff that they were stronger than. And they introduce other aspects, like they have new Predator dogs in The Predator that aren't like the Predator dogs in Predators that are a completely different species. They're literally Predators mixed with, like, dogs. And it's... Why would you ever do that? Who would sign up for that? It's such an absolute, like... Just trying to look at that and be like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a plan. That sounds like a good thing to do to this whole series. And it's like, well, what's the payoff? What are we setting up here? It's like, okay, this is in order to excuse what this Predator is trying to do here, because this is also the first Predator movie where we throw in a fucking child. Like, that's what action movies need, is the child to worry about the whole time. Aliens taught us that. So every action movie has to have a child. So the Predator gets its kid. And the kid has autism, and the Predator wants the kid's autism. The literal plot is that the Predator is going to weaponize autism. And so in order to stop this, there's the good Predator, the classic Predator, the one you actually like, that you wanted the movie to be about them killing people. They come down to try and give us a Samus Aran mecha suit, the Predator Killer, to take out the upgrade Predator with, I don't know, technology that seemed to work for Predators before. But in the meantime, when the Predator shows up, the first thing he decides to do is murder a few innocent people that he's trying to save and skin them. Because, you know, he's a Predator. He just do that. It's just like a nervous tick, I guess. And he's here to fucking help us, and he's just like, I'm gonna murder you. And like, it's just some crossed wires. Some things are just it's just not coming out here. I'm trying to tell you, but it just keeps failing. And I just. Oh my God, I really don't like The Predator. It has a handful of human characters. They're the loonies. They're all supposed to be wacky and zany, and it's just one of those things where the movie keeps making jokes and then keeps laughing at itself for making such clever jokes. Especially as it goes on and on to say how the name The Predator is so stupid for this creature. Why would you call it the Predator? It's more like a bass fisherman. It's just a game hunter. It's not a predator. A predator eats what it is hunting, not makes trophies out of them. No, that's not a predator. That's stupid. Why would you... Oh, aren't we clever? Ignore the fact that in Predators they established... from the one lady who was in the know in the government, who did know about these creatures and all the stuff that people had all the information about the incident in '87 with Arnold, knew about, you know, the mud blocking the heat and everything, specifically said that they don't have a name for them. Let's just ignore that too. Let's just ignore that. Because we made such a funny joke, and we just gotta laugh. We just gotta laugh. Let's just because someone laughing at their own jokes is the surest sign that they are just hilarious. So, with that in mind, let's just put it down there. I think I gave it a 2 before because I was like, I can't imagine someone likes this. But there's just so much with it. So much. And it just gets worse every time you see it. It just gets worse. And that brings us to Prey. Now, this is an interesting one because I really, really liked it the first time I saw it. And I still feel that way to a degree. But there is a problem here that I've noticed. Part of it has to do with the fact that yesterday I spent 7 hours with the fellas on EFAP dissecting the movie, and when you spend 7 hours slowly combing through a film, looking at absolutely every detail you can find and discussing them, you tend to kind of find if there are, deeper implications to things. That's both good for trying to, like, here is something that like in the original Predator, you have more depth to this. Here's little details you might not have noticed the first time, because it doesn't explain absolutely everything, but it does have little hints here and there that you can pick up on. Prey is got a bit of the opposite problem, where it's set up like mostly competently, but there are a few things that are just kind of because movie. And you really have to accept because movie, and you have to be okay with because movie. Because if you try and dig into it, you find the flaws, you see the cracks in the foundation, and it's just... I have to come to the sad realization that Prey is a pretty movie. It's a pretty movie, and it's definitely a nice bit of shallow entertainment. For like one viewing, maybe two. But the more times you watch it, the worse it gets. And that is painful. It's like, no, you were the chosen one. The main protagonist, she's really kind of selfish, and she never really grows from that. There are a couple of instances I can think of where she showed that she actually cared for someone other than herself. She wasn't particularly happy with what the Predator was doing with her brother. And she also, like, when he was about to beam the one guy in the head she was right next to and could do something about, she did push him out of the way to make sure that that didn't happen to him. And, that kept him alive for 12 more seconds, which, those are 12 seconds he wouldn't have had. She gave him those. It was nice of her. But other than that, she was really just kind of concerned about herself, her wants, and did not care how that affected anyone else at all. And that makes her less likable every time you watch the movie. You go from like, okay, how's this going to affect her? How's this going to go? To then when you know that she really doesn't have a character arc, and you see her kind of being like, oh, it's all about me right away. It's like, yeah, it kind of is now, isn't it? Yeah. Now, the Predator himself in Prey is an interesting one. I got called out a bit for saying that it was a super predator, like in Predators, when the movie doesn't really say that. I was basing that more on the physiology, because they did kind of change how it looks, but it could just be that they're updating the tech. They're updating the look a bit. They're not sticking specifically to the 80s prosthetics anymore. They're just like, okay, this is just how Predators look now. That's just kind of how it is. So it is. I was thinking because their head came forward a little bit more, that they seemed more the physiology of what was established in Predators for Super Predator versus regular Predator, where the regular Predator's head was, it came forward more than a human's, but it was still kind of far back. The back of their head lined up with their back, versus having that forward arch and the head coming forward quite a bit, like it does for the Super Predators and the Predator in Prey. But yeah, the other aspect that made me think that the Predator in Prey was a super predator was the fact that the Predator in Prey is kind of dumb. And it's not so much because, oh, this Predator isn't that smart, as is more just because they have to show that she's smarter than a beaver. She can outsmart this Predator, and this Predator would get outsmarted by that beaver. He's really, he walks into her traps. Like, she does set up a couple of them pretty well, but then he just kind of is pretty dumb about quite a bit. And I feel like, Arnold had to work more towards outsmarting the Predator, who was still working pretty well on outsmarting him, where she really didn't have to worry about that all that much. And it was about her being smart and a quick thinker. That was her big advantage. But because the Predator was presented as being so dim, it really failed to show her thinking quickly and being able to think on the fly and being able to do all this. She learned throughout the movie, set up a plan at the end, and it worked. That's kind of how it went. And Yeah, there are still like good characters. There's good acting in the movie. It's a beautiful looking movie. I still love the dog. It's just the more times you watch it, the more you realize this is not the savior of the Predator franchise. The Predator franchise here. It's kind of got like a similar thing going on as the Sonic franchise. Whereas when a new game comes out, you just hope it's good. You don't want it to be. You're not saying it needs to be the best thing ever. I want it to be like the top end of all electronic entertainment I've ever experienced. You're just happy that they don't crap out another Sonic Boom. That's really what you are aiming for as a Sonic fan when a new game comes out. What are people saying about Sonic Frontiers? They're like, I just hope that it's fun. Like, it looks weird. The embargoes is very, very concerning. But at the end of the day, everyone's just wanting the game to be good. They're not hoping it's the most amazing thing they've ever experienced. They just want it to be fun. They just want it to not be a disaster. And so Prey, coming off of The Predator, absolutely beats the hell out of that. And I do say it is at least a Predator movie. But I'd say it's around there with Predators. Now I think I like Predators better than Prey. But they're both around a 3-star there. Both around 3 stars. So yeah, this was a fun little bit to get that off my chest. I'm gonna work to get this edited really fast and get this up before Sunday's out so I can keep the algorithm happy. And I got a lot of work to do today, so thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado. And remember, you never truly know a movie until you sit down with 4 like-minded individuals and talk about it for 7.5 hours.